Hi, everyone. Welcome to HDSB Talks, a platform for you to hear from your student trustees and for your student trustees to hear from you. This is your host, student trustee Kaitlyn Ho, and for our first episode today, we are very excited to be joined by my co-student trustee, Charlie Ochu from Oakville, Trafalgar. So this episode will act more like an introduction to your student trustees this year, kind of what our stories are, what our values are, and what we would like to do during our term. But before this, I wanted to tell you kind of about how this podcast will work. So, in summary, HDSB Talks is a platform I created to provide more transparency and accessibility of information because a lot of people might not even know what student trustees do on a daily basis. So, every month, I'll be providing updates surrounding our student trustee reports at board meetings, highlighting different initiatives by Senate, and looking for your feedback on certain issues or projects. As well, throughout the month, there will be interviews of different students from across the HSB who will come on to the show to speak about their passions and amplify their voices. So, this podcast is available on Spotify and YouTube. And if you would like to be interviewed for an episode, you can sign up via the link down below that leads to the interest form or DM me on Instagram at kaitlyn.hsb. But without further ado, hi, Charlie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing amazing. And can you introduce yourself and maybe explain kind of what your story is?
Uh, well, as some of you might know, I'm going into grade 11. I'm currently at Oakville Trafalgar High School. Uh, yeah, future prospects, I'd say that I'm kind of looking for something in the STEM field. I think I'm pretty good at chemistry and something like that. And my life story, well, I actually immigrated here when I was really young, about 2 years old from Nigeria. And actually, besides that, I have lived all my life in the Halton district. Grew up here. I loved it here, and I'm looking I'm looking to make a change in this district.
Yeah, sounds good. That's so cool because I actually immigrated here from China when I was two as well. But I settled more in like Mississauga before coming here. So
Okay.
pretty cool. And can you share one fun fact about yourself?
Well, a fun fact about myself: I used to be able to juggle pretty well. I actually used to be able to juggle five oranges at once, but now it's gone down to three for like 10 seconds. So, well, I haven't been practicing.
Wow, wow. Yeah, you should definitely, I'll take a video of you sometime to show everyone. That's super cool.
Right.
Yeah, and why did you run for student trustee? Like, what really excited you about that position?
I think it's the aspect that you get to have an input in what's going on within the school community because I actually really wanted to address specific issues that I saw, mainly improving student life and amplifying the student voice while also enhancing the school culture. Giving students a positive, inclusive, and supportive environment.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of that, definitely for all candidates, they were all passionate about something, and there's definitely, some issues that we see in our student lives, in our daily lives, in our communities that probably pushed us to run for student trustee. So I was just wondering, what like broad issues within the HSB, within schools, were you passionate about, and what really pushed you to run? Um,
Well, I'd say the number one on my list would definitely be academic awareness. I want every student to be like having fun in school, and I think most stress that comes from school would be tests. So if everyone does well on tests and everyone knows about their life goal, what they want to do in life, everyone's going to enjoy the school experience even more. Besides that, I'd say that a problem that I'm pretty passionate about would be AI usage. Not so much a problem that it is an issue that needs to be addressed because I feel that AI is an incredible tool that can be used to improve the school experience as well, as long as we just teach students how to use AI properly.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely resonate with both of the fields that you just said. So let's kind of unpack each of them a bit. Talking about student experience and like especially like learning and achievement, that kind of, commitment, especially in the multi-year plan that we did spend quite a bit of time discussing in the last 2 days. Um, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I know you talked about, tests, improving, academic competencies and things like that. So, what really stands out to you in terms of like what is not making students succeed at school?
That's a great question. I think it mainly has to do with achievement gaps because a lot of people will see how their friends are doing, the people how they hang out with are doing, and they think that they can't do better. So they essentially put a mental block on themselves, thinking that they're not good at school, they're not good at like taking tests, and that just makes them hate school even more. It's like a positive feedback loop going in a wrong direction.
Mm. Yes, you're right. Totally. I know even like some of my friends too, right? Especially when it comes to like comparing grades and that competitive atmosphere. It really kind of takes people down sometimes and doesn't make people feel very good. It doesn't make them feel like they want to strive for, success. And I think also in today's day and age, like we always categorize achievement as like getting good grades and like passing tests too. And that's, kind of what you were alluding to even a bit. But I just wanted to kind of broaden that and say that success is different for each person, right? Like you
Definitely.
can feel successful coming back home, even if you maybe didn't do that well on your test, at least you know what went wrong. You knew that you understood the concept. You just like made a few stupid mistakes.
Definitely. As long as students are like learning and engaged, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of that engagement aspect, what issues do you see there in your daily life and at your school, and how do you think we can, engage students more in their own learning?
Honestly, I think it's because we're focusing more on equality in the classroom more so than equity, because every single student is different. Every single student has different methods that they learn best. And if you just paint them all with one brush, then of course some students aren't going to be as they're not going to perform as well in the classroom as students that are attuned to the standardized learning that is in our schools.
And how do you think we can go about addressing that issue?
Well, I'm actually going to tell you a story. In grade eight, I actually took this. My entire class took a Myers-Briggs personality test, and actually told you how you learn like the best strategies that you would use to learn. And I think that if you were to take that information and apply it to the classroom, like have some more hands-on projects and some more audio sort of focus projects, because a lot of people are visual learners, so a lot of people are hands-on learners, a lot of people learn better just by listening or watching videos. So if we provide multiple ways to learn one thing, a lot of students are going to be more engaged because there's more options for them to learn.
Yes, yes, for sure. I know I had like an English teacher in grade 10 too that would allow us to, have the agency to choose like how we want to do our project. Like, did we want to do a video? Did we want to make a presentation? Did we want to like handcraft something? And I think focusing on the individual is super important rather than, trying to apply like one way of learning to every single person because
Right.
as you said, everyone learns differently, right? Like maybe you're like a kinesthetic learner, maybe I'm like a audio visual learner. And that kind of reminds me too, like in my functions class, actually we had assigned seating, which kind of sucked, but our teacher made it so that like we had like a group of four and each placement of the desks there was two like facing each other and then two facing the front and then we would have like the kinesthetic and like auditory people face each other and the visual people face the front to see the board. I just thought that was really
Right.
interesting, trying to fit the classroom environment towards that one student and towards how we learn instead of just assuming everyone is a visual learner, assuming everyone um thrives by listening to you like lecture about functions, right? Because maybe
That
some people like just working through it, maybe some people just like listening to it and doing their own thing. I think that is definitely very important.
I agree totally. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Mhm. For sure. And then talking about AI too, I definitely think this is a super crucial thing that we need to start talking about. And I think the issue is that it's such a new concept. Like within the last 2 years, the rise of, Chat GPT, all these other like chat bots and things like that. Especially when we enter high school too, because I know throughout grade 8 and down, like I was very sheltered at my school. Like you can't be using your phone during class,
Yeah.
use your computer outside of like these specific websites. So when I entered high school, I definitely saw a big shift in how students are leveraging and also weaponizing technology. So in that, I wanted to ask maybe what you think about how we can integrate AI and different technology into learning at a younger age. Like, how do you think we can reconcile, keeping younger students safe, but also making sure they have the competencies about AI and how to use it safely for when they enter high school?
Well, I think the most important, like the best way would be to just introduce it to them while they're young. You gotta like base some assignments around it, maybe have a performance task to show that they're learning and that they're using AI as it should be used instead of in a harmful way, while also reducing the amount of repetitive assignments in class, because that's the reason why a lot of students use AI. Like, I don't want to name names, but in my history class, a lot of students would just have an AI read the newspaper for them and write the report about it. So I think comes back to that engagement aspect where if students aren't engaged, you're just going to look for a way to automize the tasks that are being given to them.
For sure. So you're talking more about like how we can change like the curriculum and the content and the way we teach to make sure students are actually learning instead of just having a task that AI can easily do in like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
And that really resonates with me too. I remember when we were at like AGM, like at OSTA, so the Ontario Student Trustee Association conference. Um, for that like change maker session, I was talking to like this principal and a few people about how we can kind of incorporate AI into the curriculum and embrace it rather than push it away. Because I think
exactly.
the big thing right now that teachers are doing is like, oh, no AI, like I'm banning AI. It's like completely stigmatized inside the classroom. If you use it, or like if my tool on Google catches you using it, even if you used it or you didn't use it, like you're under really big trouble. And I
Exactly.
think that just makes students more secretive about the way they use it instead of actually embracing it into the curriculum. So I know necessarily like the HDSB isn't really in control of the curriculum. It's more of like the Ontario like province who's in charge of it. But I think we can definitely push to advocate to have AI be integrated. So instead of just having, easy like quantitative, homework questions that you can just like type into ChatGPT and it like formulates something.
Yeah,
Maybe instead have more like critical thinking questions or like reflections or like videos where you have to like
exactly.
speak your answer so that it's more like testing a different part of your brain, something that isn't just easily done by ChatGPT.
Exactly. It all comes back to the different learning strategies, which is why why I really wanted to focus on that.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that's kind of an issue with AI, especially trying to integrate it in younger grades, is that aspect of safety, right? Because I know for a lot of AI tools, it's like only 13 and above are
Yeah.
able to use it. So legally, we can't just give, seven-year-olds here, like try this AI tool. So instead, how do you think we can maybe spread more awareness and education on AI without actually putting it into their hands?
Well, I think we could introduce some videos on AI being used. So rather than the students using it, they're learning how other people are using it and how it can affect the world positively. Because honestly, on social media, we only see AI used in mostly negative ways, with the rising of deep fakes and the rising of like automatic text that can replicate someone's voice. It's That's the only thing that's being shown to them. If we just show them how good AI is, how it can like create designs for you, it can like imagine things for you. then it wouldn't be so much of a problem as it already is.
Yeah, you're right. And especially we need to remember that AI doesn't just include ChatGPT and chatbots. It also includes like maybe in the future you want to be a researcher and there's a lot of different AIs that help you, you know, go through the research and like categorize the research, and like analyze it like that, like quantitatively. Or there's a lot of AI within like your algorithms when you scroll on TikTok that kind of shows you, oh, hey, I know you like this content. Here's this much more, right? So we definitely need to talk about the positive aspects. I think videos is a really, really good idea. Even having like some like animated videos, really
Right.
lighthearted things, just to introduce a concept that like the future isn't scary if you don't want it to be, right? Robots, they might take over the world, but like why should we be scared of it? Instead we should try to even embrace it in a sense. But
Yeah.
also, we can't forget, obviously, about safety and teaching students how to, use social media safely
Yes,
without,
exactly.
um, compromising their own information and just making it clear to them, things like cybersecurity that when you use ChatGPT, you're giving
You're
the
giving them information.
chatbot your information
Right.
willingly. So, like, do you really want to do that? That type of thing too.
Yeah, we gotta like teach them what goes in to social media when you're using it because there's so much information that you willingly give up when you're using social media platforms. It really is crazy. As long as you just like teach them social media, we introduce it to them at a learning age so they know how it can be used positively and how it can also be used negatively because we don't want to hide that from them, then it can only be a good thing because students are informed.
Right, exactly. And speaking of that and trying to, introduce usage of certain technologies at a young age, I know recently, just in the past year, the like Ontario province did ban the use of cell phones inside the classrooms. So I was just wondering what your opinion and perspective was on that.
Well, I think that there's some good in it and there's some bad in it because let's say, honestly, I'm gonna be frank. Kids, some of these younger kids from grades like 3, 4, 5, they don't really know how to like read. They don't write well. They don't have any sort of media literacy skills, and it's showing because students like they're not as good as writing papers as before. And I think that in the early ages, like primary grades from grades 1 to 6 or 7, we should lessen the usage of cell phones in schools so students can develop those writing skills, those reading skills, those knowledge and understanding skills. Then from grades like 7 to 12, that's when we start allowing cell phones in because students have the skills needed to use them. Well, they also have the skills needed to not rely on them so much.
hmm Yeah, and just to paint a picture of what classrooms kind of look like before, I know for me, I wasn't allowed to use my phone all the way throughout elementary school. Like even in grade 8, if you would sneak your phone out, like automatically it would get confiscated, you'd get caught. What I really saw was the rise of cell phone usage during secondary school, right? Like I would look around in my French class and everyone would be on their phones. And sure, like I obviously like scrolling on TikTok too, right? But it's like a time and place thing. So also though, I know cell phones are very helpful, right? Like if you want to jot down a quick note or if you want to listen to music, like are you gonna pull out your whole computer to listen
Exactly.
to it? I know also I think they're banning like a few social media platforms if I'm not wrong, like on the school Wi-Fi. So like how would you be able to listen to music, especially if that kind of helps you pay attention. Um, but also I wanted to go back to that question of like integrating cell phone usage into stuff like when you're younger to make sure when you go off to university or beyond, you know how to kind of regulate that for yourself. Because, like, for example, if we were to ban cell phone use during high school as well, right? Now students, they don't have a choice. They have to like not use their phone instead of trying to figure out a way how they can like balance using their phone and like doing work and all of that. So then when they go to university, suddenly they have all this freedom. They're going to be on their phones 24/7. Like maybe it's going to be the same repeat of what it was in high school where people are super distracted during lectures and they don't care and they because like they haven't learned how to, juggle using their phone and like paying attention during high school. So that was kind of poorly stated, but like, what do you think about that?
Honestly, you're 100% right. We need like if we're stopping students from using their phones in high school, just think what's going to happen when they're out of high school, because they're just going to be using their phones all the time. They're not going to know how to use their phones as well as usual, and they're going to lack that balancing skill of using their phones while also working. But I also think we need to go back to why phones and technology is so prevalent, and I think that stems from the online schooling days
Mhm.
because computers and phones were necessary. You had to have them. Like you would even some schools would even pay for your Wi-Fi just for you to show up to school. And students, a lot of high school students are still used to those days. Well, not used to it, but it's like conditioned them to that so that they need their computers, they need their cell phones, they need their music. And I think it's really just COVID that really messed things up this bad for the student body.
For sure, yeah. Like especially, why are teachers directly blaming us saying, "Oh, hey, like why are you always on your phone?" But that was kind of the environment we grew up in, right? Like ever since grade 6 to like grade 8, grade 9, I was like on my computer for like 9 hours a day
Exactly.
doing schoolwork, right? So,
You can't
exactly.
expect that to not have any sort of impact on students.
Yeah, for sure. And also I wanted to talk about the idea of like back to basics, right? I know when we come to AI, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we should just switch to more, paper writing in English class, like pen and paper." So what do you think about that too, right? Because my concern with it is obviously when you go to university, you're not writing anything with the pencil and paper. Everything is digitalized. When you go into the workforce, everything is digitalized too, right? Like coding and using AI will be a
Coding.
major competency that you'll have to know, even when you go into like nursing or banking or whatnot. It's going to be super prevalent. So, what are your thoughts on that like back to basics concept? Like, do you resonate with it? Do you empathize with it? Do you not like it?
Honestly, if I had to give my opinion, I don't see as much good in it as I see bad because, like you said, students are like AI is the future. We don't really have a say in that. AI is going to be like in every workplace. It's going to be dominated by the fields as well as technology. And if you're limiting the technology that students have access to, think about how that's going to affect them in the real world. Because if they don't have like their phones, their computers are always writing things on paper, that's such a loss in efficiency that's going to be required in the workplace or in college. Like no one's going to be taking notes in college on their like what pen and paper notebook instead of typing it on a computer that almost doubles your speed. And if we're taking away that sort of learning, that growth, that technology adaptation that students are learning right now, it's going to affect them negatively in the future.
Yes, you're completely right. So, in that, a very burning question, how do you think we can go about addressing technology use, cell phone use, AI use within your classrooms, especially when it comes to, high school classrooms?
Well, that's actually a really good question if I do say so. I had to think about it. I'd say that there should be some projects that allow cell phones, require it even, and some projects that should be done on pen and paper. So we're balancing it out because we don't want everything to just be black or white because it's a gray area. There's good in cell phones, there's bad in cell phones, there's good in AI, there's bad in AI. And if we just allow students to regulate it for themselves so that they gain a positive relationship with it, then it's only going to help them out for the future.
Yeah, I really like that. Like, not just hiding it, but embracing it too. And embracing it in certain projects shows that, oh, this is like an okay thing that we can, use under certain guidelines so that also students don't feel the urge to use it for all projects when it's just like, oh, it's banned or it's like not allowed. So, yeah, that's so cool. Thank you so much for that discussion. I think I definitely learned a lot.
Right.
Do
Your
you have
opinion is incredible.
Do you have any other, issues that you're passionate about? Any final remarks?
Well, issues that I'm passionate about, phew, I think it'd be like the socializing, like the social aspect that technology brings. Because any student looking to make friends these days, there's like a bunch of students that are already friends. They already have group chats. They already hang out with each other outside of school. They're always texting each other. It's hard for someone to be accepted into a friend group these days, more so than before. Because let's say 4 or 5 years ago, you could just walk up to someone, start talking with them, and before you know it, you'll be friends.
Mhm.
But right now, because of social media, because of the addiction to it, everyone has their own sort of group chat. Everyone has their own friend group, and it's hard to socialize more so than it was before.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely see that as well. But that also might just be, a symptom of growing up too. I know back in grade like sixth grade, seven, it would be really easy just to like talk to someone and make a new friend. But especially in that high school atmosphere, everyone has grown up, like especially again with like all the group chats and like the use of social media too. It has really kind of separated people.
Yeah,
Also, COVID has separated people
definitely.
and made it hard for some people to socialize.
Yeah.
Also, people who don't have access to technology
Yeah.
are excluded from the conversation. So, yeah, that's definitely something. I think also just like lacking kind of empathy and, kindness and like that community at schools as well. We want to make sure schools are more than just like a transactional thing where you go to school, get your good grades, and leave, right? We want it to also be like a culture where you're able to talk to your friends and learn and grow in like an environment that's comfortable for you.
We want there to be a sense of community, that sort of student success aspect where everyone leaves happy. And that's what I'm really striving for.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's super noble of you. And finally, I want to talk about something fun before we end it off. I know you're like very big into cooking, I believe.
Um,
So, what's your favorite meal to cook?
pasta immediately. It's my favorite dish. It's easy to make. It's delicious. It's perfect.
Yeah. What do you put in your pasta?
I have a tomato sauce that I usually use, even though I'm more of a Alfredo kind of guy. But I have tomato sauce. I have garlic. I love adding garlic to my pasta. It's delicious. Basil, ground beef, I like the works. I also like using elbow pasta. It's my favorite kind, honestly.
Hmm. Is that like macaroni?
Yeah, macaroni.
Mm.
My family
Okay,
call it
sorry. I'm
elbow
not I'm not
because
like used to all the terms. I'm not a big cooker myself. Not at all. I need to learn though. Maybe you'll teach me one day. Yeah, that's so cool. So thank you so much again for joining me. I hope everyone who's listening right now learned something about Charlie, learned something about me, and kind of what our plans are for the term and what we're passionate about. So yeah, again, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you for having me. It's been an incredible opportunity.